Welcome back to episode 5 of Average Joe News Co. For our two stories today, we'll first be covering a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton that was sold at auction, becoming the most expensive fossil ever sold. And we'll also be covering a library in Connecticut that is hosting talks on the famous Connecticut Cryptids. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's go.
For our first story today, a T-Rex skeleton from South Dakota has set a new record for the most expensive fossil sold at auction at a price of $50.1 million. This fossil was 67 million years old, and it is nicknamed Gus after the rancher whose property it was found on. It's 38 feet long and 12 and a half feet tall, one of the largest T-Rexes ever found. The winning bid was placed by phone. First things first, who is placing a $50 million auction bid by phone? All right, big shot, we get it. You're very important.
How about this? You're fired. You copy that? You're fired. You're hired. You're fired. Don't talk to me about the SEC. We'll get him on the phone. I'm going to go back in that office and rip your heart out.
You have other things to do and you can't be bothered to show up to make a $50 million auction bid. Scientific journals will only publish research conducted on specimens that are held in publicly accessible collections. So the fact that this privately owned skeleton is extremely complete in terms of percentage of the full structure of bones that were discovered is creating some controversy as to the fate of this, whether it will be used for science, whether research will be conducted on it, or the more likely outcome, which is that it will end up in the lair of some sort of evil villain who purchased this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my underground lair.
In my opinion, you should do the right thing, whoever you are. I think you should put this in a museum and let children who are not well attended touch these $50 million bones until a museum attendant screams at them and tells them not to do so. For our second story today, the public library in Southbury, Connecticut hosted a talk yesterday on Connecticut cryptids. Now, interest is growing in regional folklore as libraries and local historians have started to embrace bizarre creatures as community attractions. Think of it as a way to reinvigorate interest in areas that may not have as much going on. If you're unfamiliar with cryptids, essentially Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, basically like mythical creatures that don't necessarily have any hard evidence of existing. The big three Connecticut cryptids are the Glowacus, which is a bear-panther-dog hybrid, which famously caused a mass hysteria monster hunt in 1939.
There is something out there which threatens our very existence and may be the end to the human race as we know it. I'm talking, of course, about man-bear-pig.
The Winstead Wild Man, which essentially is a Bigfoot variation, pretty boring, we'll move right past that one. And then the Black Dog of Hanging Hills, which is essentially considered as an omen. If you see it one time, that means joy. If you see it 2 times, that means sorrow. And if you see it 3 times, it means your death is impending. Now, the supernatural craze has really gotten pretty insane in the last few years. I'm definitely guilty of this too. I am fascinated by learning about these stories, and while I write them mostly off as craziness, it is fun to keep an open mind and wonder what if we have it wrong, and what if these things might actually be out there, even if they're likely not. Now, I support this effort because really anything to make Connecticut less of a boring hellhole that it is great in my book. If you spend more than a few days in Connecticut, you might be excited to see the Glowacus because it's probably better than slowly expiring from boredom. Moving on to sports. To revisit our prediction from yesterday's episode, the home run derby, I'm going to say that was a bad prediction. Now, the format was better as we discussed. It was cool to actually be able to see the home runs travel once again, as opposed to the horrible broadcast that they had with the timer format before. It just ended up being the case that there were not as many home runs as the previous format, and overall I would say it felt a bit slower and a bit less exciting than, some of the golden era home run derbies of the past where 80% of the guys were roided up.
What the hell are you doing? Dude, I'm sorry, I needed to take a little boost or something. I messed up bad tonight.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to get good rabies out here?
What are you talking about, rabies?
You just stole my rabies!
So that makes us for predictions. We've given you 2 good ones, 0 mid ones, and 2 bad ones. Now, for today's recommendation, soccer is still boring, and so is the MLB All-Star Game, so we'll be getting a little weird with this one. I'm going to recommend chess boxing. No idea what this really is. It's a event that is happening this summer broadly in England. What I researched on this said that you can either win by checkmate, knockout, or your opponent timing out on the chessboard. Now, I can't imagine many people are winning by checkmate in this. It seems like the likelihood of being knocked unconscious is much higher than playing an entire chess game before that time window. It seems really crazy, but could be worth checking out. For weather today, for Wow That's Warm, we have Needles, California, at a 110-degree high for the day. The fun fact about Needles, California is it was the first city in California to open a JCPenney in 1914. Very weird choice considering the location of this. It's essentially near Lake Havasu on the Arizona-California border. Do not know what JCPenney was thinking back in 1914. For That's Frigid, we have Angel Fire, New Mexico with a 37-degree low. The fun fact about Angel Fire is that it got its name from the Ute Native American tribes seeing spectacular sunrises and sunsets and referring to them as Fire of the Angels. Pretty literal naming there, but Angel Fire is still pretty cool, so we'll give them a pass. That's episode 6 of Average Joe News Co. We'll be out with a new episode tomorrow. Thanks so much for checking us out. Play the music.